Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today we need to talk about something that happened over the weekend that you might have missed. But it's absolutely crucial to understand. President Donald Trump has threatened military action against Nigeria. Yes, the most populous country in Africa with over 200 million people. And this isn't a joke. This isn't hyperbole. The President of the United States posted on social media about going into Nigeria, gun blazing, and ordered the Department of Defense to prepare for possible action. So what's really going on here? Why Nigeria? Why now? And most importantly, does any of this even make sense when you actually look at the facts on ground? By the end of this video, you will understand the full context that's missing from most coverage of this story. Now, let's dive in. First, let's establish the timeline of events because things move really quickly. On Friday, November 1st, 2025, President Donald Trump designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern for religious freedom violations. This is an official State Department designation for countries where the government has engaged in or tolerated severe violations on religious freedom. Then just one day later, on Saturday, Trump escalated dramatically. He posted on social media claiming that Nigeria isn't doing enough to protect Christians from violence. He stated that the US may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists. He also ordered the Department of Defense to prepare for possible action and threatened to immediately stop all aid to Nigeria. Now, according to the CNN sources, here is where it gets interesting. Trump's sudden focus on this issue appears to have been triggered by a Fox News segment he watched. Within an hour of watching that segment, he became laser focused on treatment of Christians in Nigeria. This is important context because it suggests this wasn't the result of months of intelligence briefings or careful diplomatic consideration. It was a rapid response to a media segment. So let's examine the central claim here that Christians in Nigeria are facing a genocide or systematic persecution that requires US military intervention. Is there violence in Nigeria? Absolutely, yes. Nigeria faces serious security challenges, but here's where Trump's narrative falls apart. When you look at the actual facts on the ground, according to Nigerian analysts and local reporting, while Christians are indeed among those targeted by violence, the majorities of victims are actually Muslims, living in Nigeria's predominantly Muslim north. Both Christians and Muslims have been victims of attacks by groups like Boko Haram and other armed insurgents. Bulama Bokarati, a Nigerian security analyst, directly addressed this. He stated there is no Christian genocide occurring in Nigeria. He called this a dangerous far-right narrative and explained that armed groups attacked markets, churches, mosques, and civilians' locations indiscriminately. They are not selectively targeting Christians. They are terrorizing entire communities regardless of faith. So what's actually causing the violence in Nigeria? This is crucial to understand because the reality is far more complex than Islamic terrorists attacking Christians. The violence stems from multiple overlapping sources. The first one, there are ethnic tensions that have existed for decades, often having nothing to do with religion. Secondly, climate change. Climate change is driving conflicts between herders and farmers, as desertification pushes traditional nomadic herders southward in search of grazing land. They come into conflict with settled farming communities. Sometimes those groups happen to be different religions, but the root cause is resource scarcity, not religious ideology. And third, political corruption and weak governance have created power vacuums that various insurgent groups exploit. The fourth reason, yes, there are extremist groups like Boko Haram, but their victims are overwhelmingly Muslim civilians in northern Nigeria. This is not a simple story of one religious group persecuting another. It's a complex humanitarian crisis affecting Nigerians of all faiths. So how is Nigeria responding to these threats? Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu firmly rejected Trump's characterizations of his country. He stated that the characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant does not reflect our national reality. He pointed that Nigeria as constitutionally guarantees protecting citizens of all faiths. And here is something important. Nigeria is not some tiny country with no ability to respond. It's the largest economy in Africa, a regional power, and a country with significant military capabilities of its own. The threats from Trump have prompted confusion and alarm throughout Nigeria. Imagine if another country's leader threatened to invade the United States of America, guns are blazing, based on mischaracterization of our domestic situation. That's essentially what's happening here. Nigeria is a sovereign nation dealing with complex internal security challenges. The idea that a US military invasion would somehow solve this problem is not just naive, it's dangerous. Now, let's critically analyze what's really going on here, because I think there are several concerning elements to this story. The first concern, the information source. The fact that this escalated from watching a Fox News segment to threatening military actions within hours is troubling. It seems fishy, don't you think? Foreign policy's decision, especially ones involving potential military intervention, should be based on comprehensive intelligence, assessments, and not cable news. The second concern, the oversimplification. Trump's framing reduces an incredibly complex situation to a simple Christian versus Islamic terrorist narrative. This isn't just inaccurate, it's the kind of oversimplification that leads to catastrophic policy decisions. Remember, this is exactly the kind of thinking that contributed to the disasters in Iraq and Libya. Go in with military force, wipe out the bad guys, problem solved, except it never works that way. Military intervention in complex civil conflicts typically make things worse and not better. The third concern, the political motivation. According to reporting, this issue has been promoted by some of Trump's conservatives like Senator Ted Cruz for months. The timing and framing suggest this may be more about signaling to his conservative Christian political base than about genuine humanitarian concern. In fact, one source familiar with Trump's thinking described this as an act of the deals type strategy, essentially using threats to see how Nigeria responds. If that's true, we are talking about threatening war as a negotiating tactics. Fourth concern, the consequences. Now, let's think through what a US military intervention in Nigeria would actually mean. Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people. It is not a small failed state. A US invasion will likely destabilize not just Nigeria, but the entire West African region. It could trigger a broader conflict, create millions of refugees, and potentially strengthen the very extremist groups that it claims to target. Because nothing recruits for extremist movements like foreign invasion. And here's the uncomfortable question. Would the United States be threatening military actions if the victims were predominantly Muslim rather than Christian? The framing itself reveals a certain bias in how we value different lives. And the fifth concern, the pattern. This isn't happening in isolation. We've seen similar patterns before. Rapid escalation based on incomplete information, threats of military forces, dismissal of complex local context in favor of simple narratives, just like in Iraq and Libya. So, if military invasion isn't the answer, what should be done about violence in Nigeria? Well, we should start by listening to Nigerians themselves. The solutions to Nigerian security challenges need to come primarily from Nigerians with international support that respects sovereignty and addresses root causes. Diplomatic engagement that's based on accurate understanding of the situation, not cable news segment. Secondly, support for Nigerian security forces through training and intelligence sharing, working with the government, not invading despite it. Thirdly, addressing root causes like climate change's impact, resources scarcity, and economic development. These are the conditions that allow extremism to flourish. The fourth one, humanitarian assistance for all victims of violence regardless of their faith. And the last one, regional cooperation with other West African nations who understand the local context far better than Washington does. The international community can play a constructive role in Nigeria, but that role should be supportive, not militaristic. It should be based on partnership and not threats. Now, here's the bottom line. The situation in Nigeria is serious and deserves attention. People are suffering, communities are under threats, but Trump's characterizations of the problem is fundamentally flawed, and his proposed solution, military invasion, will likely make things dramatically worse. This story reveals something concerning how foreign policy decisions are made when threats of war can emerge within hours of watching a cable news segment without apparent consultation with regional experts or consideration of complexity on the ground. We should all be worried. Nigerians deserve better than to be turned into a political talking point or a demonstration of tough foreign policy. The Nigerian people, both Christian and Muslim, all of whom are affected by violence, deserves accurate representation of their situation, not narratives that serve political purposes but ignore reality. As this situation develops, we need to demand better. We need to demand that foreign policy based on facts, that military force be treated as the absolute last resort it should be, and that the complexity of situations like Nigeria's should be respected rather than reduced to sound bites. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you find this analysis, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel. I will see you in the next one. Peace.